cannot lose. We may be behind on the scoreboard at the end of the game. If you play like that, we cannot be defeated. And we came here to...
Keep driving! There you go! There you go!
He's heavy! I'm out of strength!
Then you negotiate with your body to find more strength, but don't you give up on me, Brock. You keep going, you hear me? You keep going, you're doing good, you keep going. You're not quitting.
Not that we are an addict. I see the fear that we are powerful and our mental. It's our life, not our darkness, that our light. You're playing small, not serve the world. There was nothing enlightened about life. That other people won't feel it, we feel around you. It's not just the none of us, but everything. We let our own light shine. The unconscious, we give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberating them all.
Hey, who'd you talk to? What's going on? It is me, Michael King, Mike L. This is Legit Paranormal, brought to you by LegitPodcastsdotcom. It is 33224. 33224. For the math geeks, let's do, I don't know, 3 plus 3 is 6. And then we can do, 2 minus 2 is 0. I have no idea. I'm completely lost. Joining me as always, Sarah Parah Normal. How are you, Sarah?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I learned the lesson though today so far.
What's that?
Don't listen to your co-host talk about you before the show. I should at least turn the volume down next time. Right?
Was
First
it me
off-
or Cyn?
No, first off, supersonic. The S is for super. No, that's Sonic. That's the name of the group. Joining us is Cyn Shrader Hill
Author.
Author. What's up, Cyn?
Hey, so you didn't answer. Was it me or Sarah or both?
What's that?
Yeah, you were talking about you.
I can hear you both. It's going to be a mystery. It's going to be a mystery. Now, joining us from Michigan is someone we've had on the show. Well, I've been on the show with them before. It was probably I think it was about 16 to 18 years ago. I'm thinking how long ago it was, because I'm 80. I was in my late 60s, I think it was. With MUFON in Michigan, a UFOologist, someone that had a lot of great information last time, and that's why he made that list of the list I was telling you of the callbacks, like this year.
Yeah.
We recalled it. Yeah. So here he is, Bill Konkolesky.
Yep.
Am I right? Konkolesky.
Yep.
I tried it. You know what? I know it, and I knew I was going to do that. Konkolesky. It's easy. How are you, Bill?
Anyway, I look back at that previous interview you talked about. I think it appeared on Viewmaster.
That'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually great. I'd like to we should bring those back.
Yes, we should.
So Bill, in the last couple of years, UFOs have become, I don't know, commonplace almost. Like if you go on like any social media, you're going to see somebody's video of of UFO or something in the sky or UAPs. What's been going on? Like what's up with the whole uptick?
Well, yeah, there's definitely been an uptick, and there's sort of two different categories you can look to and discuss the uptick. One is public discussion, or even government or military openness to discussing the topic, and the other is people posting things online, their stories and their videos. For the latter, I don't know that I put a lot of credence into a lot of what I see. People are still posting things that are misidentified aircraft or celestial objects, Starlink satellites in particular. Hoaxes are most prevalent in social media. We don't get a lot of hoaxes reported to us at MUFON, but people bypass us, go straight to social media and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I saw. And then it turns out they faked it, which is unfortunate. So in that regard, the uptick in public release of information has mostly been a mixed bag of legitimate and people who are just confused and don't go through the filtering process of having somebody who knows how to investigate these things, look at it. And, that, like I said, the hoaxing. When you can monetize a video, you post up yourself and get your 15 minutes of fame, and then somebody says, no, that's not really legitimate, then, you've made your money about as much as you were going to make off of it.
So it's like a trail mix now. A lot of nuts, some other stuff. The problem I have, though, with the social media stuff is I always feel like that every now and then I'm going to find that one that's something real, but because I'm lumping it with everything else, I'm not going to even get a chance to look at it.
Exactly.
Buy it and go, that's fake. And I don't even look at it because it's on TikTok. So I'm like, I'm not going to give it a shot.
Yep.
Sarah, what do you think about that? The uptick in fake, before we get to the governmental side of it and how they've been in Congress, but is that 15 minutes of fame? Say you saw a UFO and have people all look at the video. Is that famous to people?
We've talked about this before on the Legit Paranormal clips where we review evidence of ghosts and cryptids. And I think it's similar. And the difficulty is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, is when people post on social media and everyone looks at it, you don't know if you're looking at an original photo or video. So from my understanding, Bill, right, you go through steps to do some forensics on footage. So you can tell if they've been doctored. You can tell these things. If you're just looking at something online, there's no way to analyze that to see if it's been doctored in any way. So Bill, can you tell us a little bit about how maybe you go through and you can analyze that, correct, to see if those are doctored?
Okay, so it's been a while since I talked about this particular incident. And so hopefully I get all the details recalled and I can give a real justice. There was somebody that submitted a video to MUFON, and they said it was their backyard security video. And it's this bright light that comes down, and it looks like it's shining lights into the trees before it goes back up again. And it's silent. It's really spooky looking. And when they submitted it, there was a group of people that said, okay, let's check this out for yellow cards. And when I say yellow cards, I mean, a red flag is a major, this is not cool. But a yellow card is, the things that make you say, right? And so so we're watching the video and the first person says, why does somebody have such a nice background video camera? It's in color. It's apparently running all the time. That's a yellow card. Why go to that length just to have a camera in your backyard? Okay, so second one, somebody says, and this is a sign too. This is always a yellow card. Why does the UFO appear in the immediate center of the screen? Yeah. If it's a camera that's like essentially a security camera, the camera's not moving around, it's stationary. Why does the thing appear there in the middle? So then, okay, there's enough room to go into this a little bit further. And then somebody blew up the video and noted, although the backyard's really dark, except for the light that comes down and the light that goes in the tree, somebody noticed that the light splays upwards, as if somebody has a flashlight underneath the tree pointing up into the tree. The light isn't a solid light. The light is not coming from the direction of this glowing thing in the middle of the screen. It's coming from the ground. So then you have this video where it appears that somebody ran into their backyard, shot a flashlight up into the tree. So how did they get that other disc? And it was scintillating a little bit. Its colors were moving around. It was really bright and everything. So somebody said, check out this laser, this laser pointer, one of those super duty laser pointers. Look what happens when you point it at a TV screen. And it looked exactly like this thing. So he says, okay, play the video. Imagine this. The person's playing the video of themselves running through the backyard, pointing a flashlight at the tree. And right at the moment where that flashlight hits, right in there, they shine this laser at it. And the whole thing lined up perfectly. And for us, that really sealed the deal on what was going on. It's the thing that really broke it was the light pointing up at the tree, but the rest of the stuff filled in the gaps of how it was created. And so sometimes, a lot of forensic stuff goes into this. Other times it's just, shoddy Photoshop kind of whatever effects they have. And it's very easy to pick out that way. But
that's pretty Cyn. When you say that's like a 3-man job at least to pull off that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that there was a lot of thought.
Well, one person could do it. They just put whatever camera they have, probably not their security camera, in the backyard, and they film themselves. They leave the camera running. They run out into the backyard, shoot the flashlight up at the tree, and then run off. You never see them because it's dark the whole time in that area. And then when they play the video, they film themselves shooting the laser on while the video plays on their TV. And then, so one person could do that.
Wow. One very bored with a lot of time on their hands person could probably pull that off, but I wouldn't go through that lens.
And several years ago, there was this thing, and it allegedly came out of California, and they were known as drones. That's what they were called at the time. And these bizarre, weird satellite-looking objects were photoed allegedly in the sky, close down over the trees and everything like that. And they looked really mysterious. They looked really weird, and they looked really authentic. But Mark D'Antonio, who's one of the head photo video guy at MUFON, he has CAD software. And during a seminar he ran at a MUFON symposium, one of our big conferences, in front of our eyes, he created the hoax. Wow. He's like, look at what this particular CAD software does. And it perfectly emulated the strange shapes. And he says, these are just basic tools on here. This isn't really getting too creative. This is available in the suite of different things. And then you just pop it into a photograph, and there you go. It looks like exactly like this.
Let me ask you this, though. When you come across something that couldn't be replicated, like how often is that then? Because I'm figuring you can almost replicate nowadays, AI, CGI, you name another eye, they're all going to replicate stuff.
Yeah,
so
how
do you make sure that it's not like one of these like simulation things or somebody's computer gadget?
Well, I'll start by saying this. There's this misconception that in this age of cell phone cameras, people don't take good pictures or videos of UFOs. And why is that? But people actually do take good photos and good videos of UFOs. But those people who are responsible witnesses, I don't know a better term to use, and go to seek out assistance, help me identify what this is on the camera. A lot of it depends on the credibility, the openness of the witness to meet with an investigator, allowing the investigator to have the raw footage off their device rather than passing along a video, and then the investigator to be able to look at it. There's been some great videos, particularly triangle-shaped videos that I've seen over the past couple of years that are really stunning.
The triangles blow my mind in the sense of how they move. Like, I mean, I obviously have no knowledge of how any of these things move, but the triangular ones, Cyn, have you ever seen those? The triangles that just kind of, their movement is, oh yeah, they're strange. Look, I've seen a couple of videos of them, and Sarah, you've seen them?
Yeah, I've seen those.
Movement. Bill, not that you could explain it, but if you try it, how are they moving? Is it just that they can move? Like there is no just like hard right, hard left. They can just kind of move. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Like
seemingly effortless, globular movement capabilities. What it appears is that they aren't really pushing up against the atmosphere. There's no sonic booms. There's no friction, almost as if they create some sort of energy or vacuum or some sort of barrier around them that allows them to push through the atmosphere without really pushing against the atmosphere. And how they do that is, well, if we knew, then we'd be doing it, I guess. But
or rich. We'd either be doing it or we'd be rich. If we could build something that could fly like that, holy cow, I'd turn my car into that. Sarah, do you have a question for Bill?
Yeah. So, Mike, you had mentioned AI a bit earlier. So my question is, how concerning is it that if there was like an actual event that people are becoming desensitized because there is so much out there because of AI? I mean, that's a concern for myself. Like, I don't believe anything I see on the internet anymore, or even on the news.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm worried if something actually happens, what are we going to do?
No, I guess that's a good question. I mean,
That was a
I
good
don't know.
answer.
We would be in a state of disarray. Some people would believe it. Some people wouldn't. There would be those who investigate the phenomena or have had the phenomena or have had the phenomena happen to them would possibly be able to recognize it as authentic, and maybe not even. The people that should know what they're talking about don't. Sometimes they aren't as immediately as skeptical as they maybe could be, and I don't know. That I acknowledge that will be a challenge as AI goes forward, certainly.
Would MUFON make a Would MUFON get involved? Would they make a statement if there was an event they thought was credible?
Yeah. MUFON generally weighs in on things that are substantial and well investigated.
But would you ring the bell? But would you ring the bell? Like, would you guys be like, look, no one's paying attention to this. It's just something serious. Let's get going. Or does MUFON not? They can't go that far.
No. I think so. To give an example that I'd like to pull in, that I think, I mean, it's a bit of a boast here to talk about this in particular, but Unsolved Mysteries reached out several years ago and asked me about any activity in Michigan that might contribute to a show. And I said there was this event on March 8th, 1994, essentially 30th anniversary of this. And I said, this is an amazing event. It had over 300 witnesses. 60 people called 911 to report their UFO sighting. Now think about that. Most people who see something, they either don't tell anybody or they tell the people closest to them. It's rare for a group like MUFON to get even many of these types of sightings, but for somebody to pick up the phone and call the number that they would if either somebody's breaking in or if they're having a heart attack from a UFO sighting,
an emergency.
These were some dramatic sightings, and police were part of this, and the National Weather Service, Jack Bouchong, the radar operator in particular, at the center of this, he tracked several UFOs flying around southwest Michigan and out over Lake Michigan. So Unsolved Mysteries said, is there anything, I'm like, you have to do a story on this event because it's a big deal. As a representative of MUFON, I joined MUFON in '93, and this was shortly after. Like, nobody's done a serious review of this, a serious story. The principal witnesses are now retired, all of them, and are open to talk about it. And they did a great job about it. And I got like 5 minutes on the show, and it was cool to be on the show. But and in return, Unsolved Mysteries did a nice sort of commercial for the Mutual UFO Network within the show. And essentially there's a part where they really pump up MUFON. And, I thought it was great. So here's a case of the organization and the investigators that investigated it and the witnesses pushing this out and having a a really fantastic documentary, if you will. If you haven't seen it, it's solid. It's really good.
What I think is the most amazing is the 911 calls.
Mhm.
Because let's say 100 people see something in the sky. Let's cut out 20 to 30 people who are just not going to mention it. Right. And then now you're looking at the rest and you're thinking, like, what's the percentage of them are going to call 911? Look, I would call probably like home. I would call someone like I knew before I called 911. That's the truth. If I saw, because Cyn,
Mike.
that many people call 911. Something's happening where they feel like everyone's in danger.
I think so. And it's so incredible that they know it's something out of the ordinary.
But they don't like it. It's not like it's a friendly ET, like phone home type feeling. They're going, oh no, let's call 911.
Right. Right.
So, all right, that would be of the creepy nature. Now, just to switch topic, jump around the globe. I keep reading about the fact of the Antarctic, that area. So I have this, like, over the years, I've developed this odd belief that UFOs are not just from above, but they use bodies of water. They're always around bodies of water. So I've seen them submerge in some videos. Don't know if that's real or not. But I buy the idea that if they can go like that through the air, they can go like that through water. So are they hiding, in your opinion? I can't ask you that, but in your opinion, do you think that they're not being completely honest about what we do, what business we have in the area of the Antarctic?
So you're asking if the U.S. government or military is perhaps hiding something that it knows?
No, I don't mean them just. I don't mean just the military. No. I mean everybody. Because, like, in other words, what I'm trying to say is, I know that something's happening there. There's something there, but the media doesn't ever address it. It never gets out. Like, I have to watch like a BBC news show just to hear about the fact that they're looking, or that they found like this, like a mammoth, or as a gigantic great white, something like that. They found frozen, but silly things like that. And I'm going, there must be a lot. Any area like that, the Amazon, we don't know nothing about. There's got to be a lot of great stuff that's there. That just has to be. They keep finding all these things that shouldn't belong there, but do belong there. Is it a media type blackout of that area, or is it? I'm serious, or is it really just something that there's not much going on, so they're not reporting?
That's a good question. Now, I'll start off by saying that I'm mostly a grassroots guy. We get over 200 sightings in Michigan every year, and that's enough to keep the plate full. And just being hands-on at that level, and that I'll admit there's a lot of great conspiracy theories around Antarctica, and I put Antarctica in the same category as the moon. You hear it's the types of weird things you hear about each, and I'm fascinated by the subject. One thing that I think it makes hard for the media to take Antarctica possibly serious is that before you really heard anybody talk about these giant black pyramids or monstrous caverns underneath that seemed to be giant installations under the ice and under the ground, you had the movie The Thing, or the various iterations of The Thing, for example. That this seems to emulate perfectly. Or you could even go further back and, H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness. Very similar, if you're familiar with that story. These explorers find this alien life form underground. It just, the types of stories that are coming out of Antarctica dovetail perfectly on the science fiction that preceded it about that area. And I think that makes it challenging, and it's not the type of thing that anybody can readily access the area. So if you take like Linda Moulton Howe, who did a lot of research and interviews about the area, it's not like she did. She was boots on the ground, walking all over Antarctica, finding this for herself. It's just a matter of taking in the credibility of witnesses. the caliber of the witnesses. And there's been some pretty good witnesses, but it's like the moon. You can't just send a reporter out to investigate it firsthand. And so, our hands are kind of tied with these fantastic stories.
See, that's where the conspiracy theorist in me arises, because what my theory is those movies have all come out to make us think. We just laugh when we hear about something being found in Antarctica. Like, oh, what, Ice Age? I've seen that movie. Like, it's one of those type of things. And they did that with the moon. Like, you know what I mean? The moon's made of cheese. Like, as a kid, I was taught the moon was made of cheese. I'm not joking. I really thought that moon was made of cheese. So it's like ridiculous stuff. But I feel like that just gobbles up everything that could be real. So I always wonder, is it just society's way of getting us ready for something, like just letting us see movies of it, see this stuff, so they, like Sarah said, they just kind of get us desensitized to it, so that when something like 80 feet jumps out of Antarctica and just starts like grabbing planes out of the sky, we're not as surprised, although I would be surprised. Any truth you think that?
I don't know were you asking somebody else?
Yeah, I'm asking you any truth to that.
Okay, so one would think, you could make a case for that. You could apply confirmation bias and see a pattern and say, yes, if you wanted to think that was what was happening, that in these movies and these shows, they're sort of putting it out there so that we are, desensitized. Not desensitized, but we've seen it. We can sort of wrap just enough of our heads around it for the next step to accept it as reality. The issue with that is, and I'll point specifically to Antarctica, there really isn't any science fiction story I'm aware of. And of course there is one, and I'm just not aware of it. And to say that, I'll say most people aren't aware of, most likely. Where's the friendly aliens in Antarctica? Story. You have, if you take the Mountains of Madness, you have this existential threat coming out of Antarctica. And I don't know if that's helpful. I don't think that anybody is sort of planting that idea unless it's true, unless there is some evil threat that's going to come out of there. And
you guys have the Bumble.
Oh,
you have the Bumble as far as activity. Yeah, they bounce.
Oh, yeah.
Cyn,
but that's at the North Pole. That's not Antarctica.
Oh my God, my geographical misrepresentation of the.
Yeah, that was bad.
Well, dude, all right, they're from the North Pole, but you're trying to tell me they wouldn't travel to Antarctica? That'd be perfect for them. They must love it there. That to them is their Hawaii.
It's okay. Geography is not your strong suit. We get it.
I couldn't even name the states on the East Coast today. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I didn't know Alabama touched the East Coast somehow. I didn't even know that was possible. Cyn, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, I'd love to. Bill, have you ever gotten any kind of threatening emails or phone calls saying you're too close, you got to back off?
No.
Wow, you didn't say yes?
Yeah, right.
They told me to say no.
Yeah,
yeah, right.
They said no.
He did, but they erased his memory.
I will say a couple things in it. Again, I'm mostly grassroots, so I'm not trying to find my way into any sort of secret government files or anything like that. I don't think that my channels that I travel in are in touch with life-threatening situations. Though having said that, I will say that I have had a couple unusual things happen to me over the years. Like my voice, and I won't get into too deep details. One time I was home and I was, okay. Do I tell the whole story or not? Because I'm trying to think.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
So this is kind of an odd one, right? So I was already connected. This was me just being connected just barely into MUFON. And I was at home, and I remember I was at home reading David Jacobs' book, one of his books on the alien abduction phenomena. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I don't remember the title's name, but it was a red book. And so it was just me at home. I was in my very early 20s. I still lived with my parents at the time. And my father and mother were both out at work. And my dad was looking, he had interviewed for a job, and they told him that they would call him. And this is the early 90s, so there's no cell phones or anything like that. So they said they would call him on the home number that he gave to see if he got the job. So I'm reading this book, and then the phone rings, and then it's my dad. And he said, "Hey, did anybody call saying one way or the other about the job?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Well, maybe, your mother, she took the call." I'm like, "No, she left for work right after you did." I said, "I'm the only one here. I'm all alone." And then somehow I got a really weird feeling like maybe I shouldn't have said that. It was just my spidey senses started going. And I'm like, I just felt weird about saying that. So anyway, so I hung up the phone, go back to sit in the chair to continue reading the book. And the phone rings again. And so I go back. I assume it's my dad. I pick up the phone, and it's silent, just completely quiet. And then I hear a helicopter rotor, and it's getting louder and then louder and louder. I'm hung up the phone by this time. It was so loud and close. My mom had a lot of those little precious moments, little tchotchkes, and they were rattling on the shelves.
I don't mean to laugh, but yeah, I get those.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So I run out of the house, afraid that this helicopter is going to crash into the house, as ridiculous as that sounds. And I look, and sure enough, there's this black helicopter right over the house. I'm feeling the downwash of the blades. And this thing is like just right there. And I'm like, what is going on? And then as I watch it, just slowly drifts up and then flies over to Selfridge, in the direction of Selfridge Air National Guard Base, where I assumed it must have been headed. And I'm like, well, that's weird. Really, I'm nobody. But I am new to MUFON, and this happened. And I am connected. I was friends with the state director of Michigan at that time, Shirley Coyne, and her husband, George Coyne, who was regional director for MUFON. And they would often talk about helicopter harassment. So I was familiar with their stories about it, but I'm like, why on earth would I have anything like this happen? Weird. So anyway, so I go and I call Shirley up, and I said, "Shirley, this just happened." She goes, "You got to call the Selfridge right away. You got to call the Air National Guard Base and lodge a complaint." And I'm like, "Do I? Is that what I have to do?" Okay, all right. So again, I think I'm like 21 or something like that, and I hung up the phone and I looked up Selfridge out of the phone book, and I called and I did make a complaint. And the person I talked to said, "Okay, we'll call you back in 15 minutes." Sure enough, they called back. It was about 15 minutes later, and they said, "Yes, we did have 3 helicopters flying out of the Chicago area." I forget which base it would have been, headed towards. They said 3 helicopters. I only saw 1. And they said, yeah, there were helicopters in that trajectory that would have brought them over my house, but they're instructed that they can't fly below 500 feet, and we have no reason to believe they did that. So, I mean, I take it for what it is. It's odd. This helicopter very clearly descended down directly over my house. I can't tell you why. Didn't make any sense to me. My only, when I'm like, well, maybe it's because I'm connected to George and Shirley, and they apparently have that happen. But
yeah, that was like putting a push pin into your house. That was like, and you're here. Just want to let you know that you're here, and we know you're here. Here's the push pin. Cyn, what do you think of that?
I think
Wouldn't
so
that
too.
terrify you?
Yeah, but where he had me in his story is when he got the chills, I shouldn't have said that. I thought in my head, oh, his mom's still there. His mom's going to walk out of the kitchen. She really didn't go to work.
No, your stories get crazier and crazier as you go.
And I did have another weird phone one. It was in that same general time frame. I'm on the phone with a friend just talking about whatever we were talking about. And it was about a minute, like literally a minute later, I hear my voice, repeating back to me over the line what I had said the previous minute.
Oh,
This isn't an echo. This is like a full minute later. I hear a snippet of my voice saying something I had just said the minute before.
and no offense, there was probably no internet back then. That was probably either a copper line, or at worst, it was cordless, right?
I was on a phone with a big curly Q line.
Yeah, that's a copper wire.
wall.
Yeah, it goes into
Yeah.
the wall, the jack. That's a copper wire. That's actually the safest thing because it's toughest to tap into or to fake or get into. So if you're hearing a recording of yourself on a copper wire phone, that's not very good at all.
Yeah,
I sold that stuff for a long time. It's terrifying.
I once, and not far after, about 5 years later. No, it would have been a little longer after that. It would have been around 2001 or 2. My wife and I are living in this house where we turned off the computer for the weekend because we went out of town. And we know we turned off the computer because the computer was always on. And we jokingly said, like, "Oh, goodbye, computer. We'll miss you. Ha." And then we turned it off and it was on when we came home. Oh, and the back door was open and the computer was open.
Well, that's yeah.
Yeah, I would have started with the back door. That alone being open is something I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a
no. But no direct whatever. I'm telling you the extent of it. And those first 2 phone things I talked about, that was 30 years ago. That with the back door being open, there was a storm door and the bigger door, so it was just a bigger door that was open. But that was still like 20 years ago. And since then, I've become state director for Michigan. This was all
got better at it, Bill. They've just gotten better at you not knowing they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Or Bill's just got so much street cred.
Yeah,
and they know not to fly over his house.
Yeah,
I think that could be it. I'm going to lean with that, but I don't know.
I think so too.
Something flying over my house right now, by the way. So, Bill, forgive me for not knowing this, but so what is the relationship like between MUFON and either like the local and state governments or the federal government? Is it contentious? Is there any sharing of information? Like, is MUFON asked for information about witnesses and stuff like that?
Yeah. So, as you I don't know if you've seen any of the congressional hearings where members of Congress ask the Department of Defense questions. And the MUFON has been very helpful to those folks looking into it. Tim Burchett, Kristen Gillibrand, Andre Carson. During, just to name a few, during that first open congressional hearing where Andre Carson, representative from Indiana, was asking the Department of Defense questions, he was reading questions written for him by MUFON.
Oh, wow.
So yes, there is if we're talking if we're talking about elected members of Senate, of Congress, yes, MUFON has a connection to these select, interested, elected officials. It isn't that,
So the military is not. That's what you're referring to when you say elected, correct? The elected officials, not like military institutions.
Correct.
Okay.
And it could be
to talk about it. So you can give them what the questions asked, stuff like that. And it's been crazy, those Congress meetings, because the first one I was caught off guard with by how much was told, or the fact of like, I forget the one they kept calling the first whistleblower, as far as like saying that that there is that we have recovered alien crafts, that there was
Grush,
there was another species, or it was created by non-human. Like when he said all that, right, there was something about him saying that bothered me in a way that was like, he doesn't seem like he wants to be famous. He doesn't seem like he's going too far with it. He actually felt like he was holding back on what he thought he could say. Now, I may be wrong about this guy. I might be reading him wrong, but I really felt like he only gave you this when he could have really just spilled it on that. What did you think about what he said, like as an extent to what he went through?
Okay, so quite often I reserve any sort of judgment on people that come forth. I don't know if you're familiar with what happened. I'm going to touch on this first. What happened in Mexico's Congress? Jaime
Yeah.
Maussan,
The
the
little
UFO
alien.
investigator. Yeah,
Yeah, they brought out the
And-
little dolls.
yeah. And my gut instinct, especially knowing Maussan's track record of bringing out a shaved monkey or pointing to a mummified baby and saying they're aliens. Yeah, I'm like, okay, you're gonna have to really do your work to get me to pay attention to this story. But Grush is a different animal in that he went before Congress, under like threat of perjury and said, all of this is true. We have downed craft. I think it was about 13 with alien bodies along with it. I think they pulled out some sort of, when the opposition research came out, he had some mild depression at one point, maybe an addiction to something like alcohol or whatever it was, and had a bad marriage or something like that. And, maybe I'm even overstepping on what the opposition came out with, but what they came up with to throw against him, to me, just made him sound more human, more normal, more like, okay, so, this is a normal person here coming out with these stories.
When they attack your character as opposed to what you said,
Mhm.
that's a dead giveaway right there. When people come out and they're like, "Oh, he got bad smelling feet and he's mean to his wife. He doesn't like he never buys his dessert," and then it's like, what does that got to do with what he said? It has nothing to do with what he said. So I get that. I'm with you.
And the fact that there was a follow-up to it where they like sort of a follow-up report. It was led by Tim Burchett, but there were a lot of people up on stage talking about when they received Grush's information, what their follow-up was when they tried to look into some of this. And they said a limited amount of information that they were able to actually get at all supported Grush. And in terms of trying to get at the other stuff, instead of getting a reasonable explanation that what Grush had said was not true, they were stonewalled. They were shut out. They were locked out, saying, we cannot show you what you're at. We cannot give you access to the area that holds, if there was anything, it would be there. And so that, to me, was kind of interesting. That Congress, several members of Congress put their reputations on the line to follow up and either found evidence or they were pushed back in areas where that alone made it seem like there was something wrong there. Like, why can't I see this? What's the big deal? Are you, and because Grush, when he came out, he said he didn't see anything personally, but he knew the people who had. And he goes on to say, I can see people that personally worked on these projects, saw the bodies. I could name the names of the companies that are trying to reverse engineer some of these things that have been recovered. And it was a lot of very specifics in saying, I can tell Congress in a private skiff, I could tell them about it and they can investigate it. And yeah, that's what they ended up doing. There was another element.
Now they spun that though. Now they spun that. They spun that. The negative way of saying, oh, he just knows people who told him something.
You got static real bad. And now we can't hear you.
I don't think he's saying anything.
How about now? Now?
Okay.
Now?
Yep, better.
Am I just saying now?
You're just saying now. Yeah. Now?
They used against him was they said he just knows people who knew things. Like that was like the negative spin. Like, oh, he didn't observe anything himself. He's just claiming he knows people who know stuff. But I'm like, that's how you
We're
find
beyond
out
that now. Yeah, we're beyond that now. And then Gary Nolan, the Stanford biophysicist, If you hear, there was Ross Coulthart, the guy that did the interview with David Grush on, I think it was News Nation. He did a follow-up interview. I think it was also a News Nation thing, but I could be incorrect, with Gary Nolan, the guy who looked at brains for the CIA. He looked at brains of people who had close encounters to see if it affected their brains in any way, and he said, yeah, sure enough, that this does affect people biologically. And he closed out his interview by saying that a lot of whistleblowers are waiting just at the gate to come out and tell their stories. And he thought we were on the precipice of hearing many more people within the next year or two coming forward and saying their stories that corroborate with David Grush's.
Well, I mean, don't you? It feels like the dam's gonna break. Like that's what I like. Cyn, have you noticed that? Like it just more and more feels like the pressure of it. People actually, Sarah, they want to know now. Like we're at a point where we kind of accept some things, we don't know about other things. But it's like they sent that last Congress meeting. They said they were going to release the rest of the information, and it was just more redactions. Like just it blows my mind that they will redact stuff like that and or not show like an official. Or we can't show you that site. We can't confirm.
It feels like we shouldn't be questioning anymore. You know, whether or not we've been visited. We know that. I think what's being redacted and what's maybe possibly being covered up is the intent. So why were they here? Why do they keep coming here? Like, Bill, do you think that the U.S. government knows, like they've had communication and they know the intent of the visitation?
Yeah.
So there's so many people in government. I tend to think that there is a sort of a lifelong professional community within government that has, some of them have been read into this, some of them focus their careers on this. But anybody who's coming in for like a 4-year term to any office, you know, that you're exposing them to a lot that they could, once they're out of office and they really don't have any reason to be quiet about it, that's a lot of people to try to keep secret. So I think even, I tend to think, and this is again my opinion, what do I know?
Right.
But I tend to think that even presidents don't get that much information. I tend to think that they are given the information enough to validate that the phenomena is real. There's this sort of a legend of whenever presidents come into office, within the first day or two, they get the UFO briefing, the quote unquote, the big briefing on that. Probably they do, but I don't think that they're brought into a lot of the top secret information.
Right, the big picture stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't one of the presidents on like one of the talk shows actually say, "I can't tell you," or "I don't know, they won't tell me"?
I think that was Barack Obama. Was that Barack Obama?
Well, Clinton was big on saying stuff like that too.
It just, when they say that, it gets creepy because you think they're probably, what if they can't? They tell you, like, what if they just don't? I think they told him, but
so in the case of Clinton, and the Clinton and Obama's working with John Podesta. He was very vocal about there being reality to the UFO phenomena that the public should know about. He even participated in I think it was a 2001 press conference that Stephen Greer put together to try to get UFO information out. And then when he left Obama's administration to try to help Hillary get elected, he put on, I think it was on Twitter, said the biggest disappointment of the year was, again, not getting the UFO information out to the public. I mean, you can't be more open about it than that. And yet still people kind of shrug their shoulders.
So, all right. So here's the thing. So what I've noticed is that I don't think people are as much into the whole, do we have visitors, right? We've almost started to start that next step of, like she said, what's the intent, right? So that's where I feel like everyone is now going different ways, like because for real, like when you have to accept the fact that there is stuff we can't explain, things that going we can't. Why are they here? What's the deal? What's going on? How long have we known about it? Like all those questions pop up, and that to me is that's where the real answers are. Or finding out it's not if, it's why. Like if we ever were to ever find out any connection as to why the visiting, why the like abductions, or just like sometimes how they're so blatant, like in Arizona. The Arizona light. Sometimes they just do things that, to me, it seems so blatantly obvious that they don't care if we see them. But then other times, I don't know, they act like they're impossible. Cyn, what do you think? Like today, now, you think we're all gonna go? We're all believing that there are UAPs and things we can't explain, and do you think that people think, oh well, they created us, or what have I heard, or they just watch over us, or like. Relationship wise, like what do you think we're going with this? Like, in other words, do you think that we're going towards, we think, like most people think, that aliens are just another species that just happen to be visiting us, or you think there's a connection between them and us?
No, I think everybody is just a little suspicious, if not a lot suspicious, as to what the agenda actually is. If they are coming so often and the government has known for so long or whatever, and kept secrets, and little by little it's coming out, and now it's bombarding us. So what is the agenda? Why are they so prevalent right now? And why are we allowed to know about it now?
It is a good question. It is a good question as to why it's so easy to speak about now. Sarah, why do you think it's so easy to speak about now?
Because it's becoming harder to hide. So there's no choice, I think. Like there's just no choice with social media and like how good cell phones are getting. It's impossible to hide. So they have to admit to something.
But it must
why not be able to carefully release the information?
Mm-hmm. But it's going to make Bill's job tougher. It
does got to be Bill's job tougher.
Been out there. Bill, you must be like wading through junk to try to find something that you can like sink your teeth in.
Yeah, when we get, again, about 200 plus sightings in Michigan every year, we can identify about 90% of them. And so that's a lot of work to say what you saw was a satellite or a Chinese lantern or some kind of aircraft or even the moon. I had somebody, a close friend of mine, I'm embarrassed to say, report Venus. And so that still happens. And so, you get down to those final few reports every year that are really exceptional, and you try to make the most of them. And it doesn't, but really the majority of it is, just sifting through, finding the needle in the haystack of the better reports. People are familiar that something is happening. Right. A lot of people, when they come to MUFON, a lot of them are just curious. Like, I don't know what this is. Can you help me figure out what it is? But then there are some people that really are saying, validate what I see. Right. Yeah. And put your stamp of approval on it so I can tell the world that MUFON has approved this. And when we can identify it, some people get very upset. The worst emails I ever get are from witnesses, to things that we can identify, and they're angry.
Yeah.
Yep.
They want it to be more.
It's like you broke up with them. It's like you broke up with them. They're like jaded.
We have the same problem as paranormal investigators, Bill, but at least someone's proved that UFOs are real. So you've got one leg up on us there.
Now, where's the open congressional hearing on ghosts and Bigfoot?
Right.
Yeah, right. Well, ghosts, maybe someday.
But they must be actually emotional, personal emails. Like in other words, you're breaking their hearts in a weird way. Like no, this is definitely real. No, well, we proved it's this. No, you're wrong. I know you work with MUFON, but I'm telling you, that's not what I saw from my deck. No, it's gonna be tough.
One guy who sent me a string of very angry emails last year was based on something that appeared on his trail cam several years earlier. So he didn't even witness it himself. It was just, I'm like, okay, this is what happened with your trail cam, how it malfunctioned in this particular instance. And this thing on the screen correlates with this other thing on the screen that made it shift over to the center of the screen. And it's pretty clear that that was the case. And you could tell he had just been telling people for years
Oh yeah.
that he had a UFO on there. And then we were like, no, actually, yep.
And he must have been like, "Oh hell no!" and just like, "You don't
'Cause I
know nothing
told
about UFOs." You must have got that bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's rough. But because you know why? Because you're at that point that becomes like you're disproving them. They feel like you're disproving them. They take it so personal that like you're dissing their trail camp. Like he
Well,
dissing
now-
my trail camp.
And
No.
their friends are going to find out they just lied to him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So or read too much into it. I don't necessarily think he was hoaxing. I just think he was convinced he had something. Now, if you know, and if somebody is going to come to you and say, "I recognize you as an authority. Can you please issue your professional opinion for free?" And you give them your professional opinion for free, and then they hate you. I don't know. It's rude.
Well, yeah, but So-
Can I make one point though, Mike, real
Go ahead.
quick?
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that some people telling their stories with full belief in their stories, it's important, and we come across this in the paranormal community too, that maybe there's mental health issues there and they should be treated with dignity.
yeah, but sometimes they need to be told they're wrong.
Well, yeah,
it's
they can
kinda
be
like-
told they're wrong, but there's a difference between telling someone they're wrong and making fun of them. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but Bill's not making fun of them. He's
No,
not
it's
making
not
fun of
Bill.
anyone. And he
No.
got repetitive emails. Repetitive
Mhm.
emails. The only time that's ever happened to me was coaching AAU basketball when I didn't start this one particular kid.
Oh,
and
no.
the mother wrote me and said that I broke his soul. Now, Bill,
Oh.
I don't know if you follow sports very closely, but I don't know how not starting a kid could break his soul. But I digress. People can get very emotional. What's been going on? Like, what do you have coming up as far as any appearances? What's going on in Michigan? Like, how is Michigan?
We still, I mean, we're at the top of the list generally in MUFON
Mhm.
with number of sightings. I mean, we're never going to beat California or Texas, but we're always in the top 10, often in the top 3. So we get a lot of sightings here locally. That's for sure. And they're
You
all
don't
over
wanna
the state all year.
Where's
You don't wanna
where's
beat
Florida,
California.
Bill? Where's Florida on the list? Just curious.
It's also up there quite regularly. It would take me a minute to pull the data, but I mean, I could, but
No,
yeah.
you
I'm
don't
in-
have to. I'm just wondering if there's a lot around here.
I'm
Yeah,
in
oh,
New
yeah.
Guessing
England.
there are.
Oh,
In
yeah.
New England, right? We get Maine a lot. A lot of people.
Water,
I hear a lot of
right?
stories from Maine. I'm being dead serious. Like in New England, Maine, New Hampshire, up north. We get a. I always hear stories about stuff like that. Like I had an uncle who went to Maine, and we saw this and that, the other. I don't know about where Maine would rank. I don't even know if Maine reports. It feels like Maine's asleep. I don't even know if they report their stuff. But you're never going to be California. I think Michigan is. It's. You're in a rare position where you get that many sightings. Like I guess. Good.
And I think it's more than if people want to point to water. Now, water is good because you have unobstructed view. Often, you're in a dark part of the state, etc. So the visibility is just better. But I think one of the things that MUFON has in particular as an advantage. Okay, so MUFON started in '69. Michigan was right in there to found the group. Our previous state director, Dan Wright, literally wrote the Field Investigators Guide.
Damn.
And we've had a lot of strong people from Michigan. And so I think we do good PR here in the state, and I think that's helpful. And some states flit in and out with the strength of their chapters, but Michigan has perpetually been strong. So I think that also adds a boost to it too.
Yeah, the only other one we spoke to recently was Arizona. The gentleman with the white beard. So it's a guy. He's bald. Shane with a white beard.
Shane Hurd.
Oh, the mustache. Yeah,
Shane.
yeah.
Oh, I
Shane
thought
Hurd.
He likes to wear the Heineck shirt. I don't know
Yes.
if you did on the show.
Yep.
It's but it's interesting to hear like at least uniformity of how you guys handle stuff. Like when calls come in, or how you break it down, or how you go through it. Like makes me feel better when I hear from different states and they're all kind of coming in the same sort of way of handling things. You know, gives me more faith in what's going on. All right, we're gonna start to wrap up because it's already been an hour. But Cyn, you got a question you want to ask?
Yeah, I
right,
do.
good.
So, if someone is interested in becoming involved in MUFON and the investigator field training, what would they need to do? What would they expect generally?
Okay, thanks for asking. I always say, first of all, if you want to report a UFO, there's no better place to do it than MUFON because we actually investigate it. And if you want to investigate UFOs, there's no better place to do it than MUFON as well. To be an investigator, now there's the international sort of umbrella chapter, and then there are state chapters, provincial chapters, etc. Beyond that. But the international is the organization you need to join to be a field investigator. You have to join international. And then we have a field investigators training guide, and we also have something called MUFON University, and that teaches you how to be a field investigator. And this website to investigate sightings is robust. It is not cheap and simple and gimmicky. You are going to get an education. You're going to feel like you're going to college when you go to this, go through MUFON University to do investigations. And when you pass all your field investigation training, then the state that you live in is notified that you're ready to go. And the chief investigator in that state, which is Daniel Snow, currently in Michigan, will reach out and say, here's a case that you might want to investigate, or maybe you might want to tag along with this current investigator just to get your feet wet, and then then you're rolling at that point.
MUFON University.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that. Did you guys know there was a MUFON University?
You did know that because of there was somebody on my paranormal investigative team that went to MUFON University that was on this show. You just don't remember.
Hey, I don't remember that, is what I said.
No.
Didn't I say that? I don't remember that.
You said you didn't know it. You know it.
No,
you knew it. You forgot it.
Do I have to put my age? Am I going to have to stop putting my age into my name so people go, oh, that's why you didn't remember? Like, I don't remember a university. I'm sorry.
Chris just asked what's the mascot?
Oh, yeah. I don't think we have one. That's a good one.
Wouldn't it just be like a
Gotta
gray
come up
alien?
with one.
Like an alien, yeah.
It needs to be
Like a cute name for it, sure.
Yeah, like the stereotypical.
You remember the light bulb, less than a light bulb? You guys remember that at all? Way back in the 70s, early 80s, less than a light bulb. It was a light bulb. It was a cartoon. No? Forget it. I
was
old.
a baby.
Was that on Electric Company or something?
Oh, yeah. Well, no, but Electric Company did have Morgan Freeman playing Dracula, but it was Blackula, and it was probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. And Electric Company, between Hey You Guys and then the Spider-Man segment, it's like when Spider-Man came on Electric Company, it was like, get everybody you knew because it was awesome. But you guys don't even remember that, do you, Sarah? You know what Electric Company is? Hey, you guys.
I was born
at
the end of 79. So
she's such a baby.
Yeah. You really missed out on the good stuff. Mr. Rogers' romper room, where they would make you hide behind my couch.
They still had Mr. Rogers. They still had Mr. Rogers when I was little.
That
romper room.
Mike and Sarah
terrible.
and Sam?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
romper room. You'd be like, "What's going on now?" I see Mike. You go, "No, you don't." Like, what do you mean you see me? That was terrifying. Romper room. It really changed my childhood.
Okay.
What else though you got coming up, Bill? Like as far as what's going on?
Well, we run meetings all the time. Some of them are in Zoom. So if you go to the Michigan MUFON website, mimufon.org, for our Zoom meetings with our special guests, doesn't matter where you live. Barry Roth out of Colorado is going to do a presentation on UFOs and the Police coming up March 24th. And then I am going to be at the Ozark UFO Conference in Arkansas the beginning of first full weekend of April. And then some other stuff down the road beyond that, but that's what's upcoming.
Is it mimufon.org?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to actually check it out after this. Cyn, what would you like to say to wrap up?
Thank you so much, Bill, for coming on. This has been awesome. A great, great show. Appreciate you and everything you've been talking about. I just need to learn more. I don't know, Mike. What
your books are available on Amazon.
They are on Amazon, yes. Cyn Shrader Hill Author. There's 5 on there. Please check them out. Reach me on YouTube, on Facebook.
You don't want that, Cyn. You don't want them sending you YouTube videos. Why don't you just have them email you, just message you. It's easier.
I don't know. I'm still in UFO land right now. So Cyn Shrader Hill Author at gmail.com. Send me some stories. Talk to you later.
Sarah?
So you can also get Cyn's books at the upcoming Gettysburg Battlefield Bash the last weekend in July. We will be there with some of our hosts. We have a Legit Paranormal is going to be doing an investigation of the historic Heard Opera House on May 4th. And I want to remind everyone to please like and subscribe to @Legit Podcasts on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook @LegitPodcastsdotcom. Spell it out. We have 12 different shows now. We have 10 amazing hosts who work so hard in their free time because they really believe in this content, as do we. So please like and subscribe and help us keep putting the good stuff out there.
That was pretty good.
I have my
Did
moments.
you rewrite that? Did that come off the top of your head?
No.
That's pretty good. Seriously, that's like a B+.
Thanks, Mike.
Bill, seriously, thank you though for being on again. I really think it was like 2 years ago the last time we had you on.
I actually looked really quick at the beginning. It was October 21.
Wow. Man, it's just what's great though about doing this show is that I just get to hear from different people all the time. And then but we did have a system of highlighting people that you want to go back to again. I mean, if someone in your situation, things will change in a couple of years. You're going to have things happen to you, I would guess, all the time. So it's always, I'll tell you what, it's really interesting and it's gratifying to hear how serious some people take it or that they're pursuing it. Because it's one of the main things that I do think of. Is what's going on with the UAPs or whatever you want to call them, and the increase, because I feel like the dam's going to break, or it's just a lot of garbage that they're using so we don't see the real stuff. And I mean that just by people being just like you said, they want that 15 minutes of fame, so everyone's like, "Oh, a light in the sky, film it," and then it's all over the internet. But I'm not that bright. So, Bill. Once again, though, seriously, thank you. We have what do we have tomorrow night? Oh gosh, we actually have what is it? Is it legit? And
is it legit?
And then
Legit Ladies Spill the Tea, part 2 of Alpha Males and Females, which I apparently have been kicked off of my own dating show, Cyn, for Mike.
Why?
Although I'm confirming this with Krista.
Listen, we added a dating show. Well, she added a dating show. This one, and it's controversial.
I'm going to insist on coming on. It's my show.
It's your show. Yeah.
They didn't. Okay.
It doesn't matter.
I know,
it's my show.
I think they're trying to set me up. To be quite honest, you want to do the show tomorrow? That's fine by me because they want to do.
You can be on there too. I'm going to be there too, just watching.
No, if you're going to be there,
popcorn.
No, if you're there, I'll jet out because part 2 sounds like a setup for Mike. It just sounds like, why would you want me on there? I don't want to be like, what do I got to do with a dating show? I don't setup for Mike. I'm not buying it. Let me do my wrap up. For Bill Konkolesky, son of a bitch, bastard. Let me try that again. Konkolesky. I say it all the time myself. For Bill Konkolesky. For Cyn. Oh, here we go. Shrader Hill Author. For Sarah Parah
Normal.
It's me, Mike Leper King, Mike L. This was a Legit Paranormal on March 3rd, 2024 for LegitPodcastsdotcom. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next week. Check out the